Welcome to Gaia's Love, a podcast to guide you home into your human journey here on Earth. My name is Vivian Gerard, and it is my delight to co-create with Gaia and share our messages from Source in this now moment. Here we go. Episode 483. It is Thursday here in Cincinnati. It is actually the end of the day. It is early evening, and it is my daughter's 25th birthday today. So I begin with a big happy birthday, blessing, love, celebration for my gorgeous daughter here in the middle of July of this year, 2024. I am back after a beautiful weekend away that I talked about last week, the family time that we had at my sister's, which was really powerful and beautiful and so much fun. And I came into the space today with a very long meditation, feeling a lot of energy flowing in and lots of messages coming through. And I wasn't quite prepared for all of that. I thought there was a direction that we would be going in this podcast. And instead, it feels like a lot of pieces have come together finally in a way that I've been trying to put my finger on. And so I'm going to share what is flowing through, and we'll see where it goes. The title for today is A Frequency Shift. And I had to Google it. It came through right at the end of my meditation, and I had to Google, like, how does Google even, or AI even, describe frequency shift? And it was all connected to Doppler and temperature and train velocity, stuff like that. I was like, no, that's not quite what I mean. And then I found this beautiful article that talked about it the way that I also feel it. My scalp is like tingling right now. And so I'm going to share some thoughts. And I have the sense that what is so clear to me, what feels so clear to me, is something that many people are sensing, but perhaps we haven't quite put it in the same framework yet, or we just haven't connected the patterns or the threads in the energy. And so I'll say some things, and you may agree with all of it, or you may go, I don't think any of that is true, or I don't agree with any of that. And I'm open to the dialogue, so I really welcome your comments, your thoughts, your reflections as in the comments as we move through this time. So I'm going to give a little backstory, and then we'll see. I wrote a book several years ago that is called One Day Gaia's Gifts, and it was about energy portals around the world and in the earth that I believe my soul tribe, the souls that I travel with through all time and space, that we created with Gaia, co-created energy portals where we anchored in stories, energy transmissions, ways for healing to ripple through this planet. And those stories, those energetic portals, were placed in stories and timelines across all history and into the future. And when I wrote the book, each chapter was very clearly channeled, guided, heard through my awareness from each of the members of my soul tribe. I could hear their words coming through when I specifically tuned into them. And I didn't know them. You know how you know someone, but you don't know them, and then all of a sudden you have a conversation, you're like, oh, that's right, now I know you. And it's a full body, like, I know you. And that's what it felt like when I sat down and recorded each of the chapters of One Day Gaia's Gifts. It was a full soul reunion, knowing of each of the ones that I travel with through time and space. And so when I received the book in all of these stories, I thought, I don't know what I'm even supposed to do with this. At the end of each chapter, each of the soul members of my family, my soul family, would tell me, like, here's what you need to do now. Like, here's exactly the steps. And it felt like there were going to be festivals or places I would travel to where I would activate the energy, these energy portals that they were telling me about. It also seemed so far-fetched, even to me. I'm pretty intuitive and double Aquarius, pretty open to wild and weird things. And I thought, well, maybe this thing will happen. I don't know. And the safest place to start felt like my own chapter, my city, my home, and that I would activate this energy here first and kind of test it out, see what would happen. And so I did. I wrote the book, and then I scheduled the first Gaia's Love Festival. And it was in my front yard with my family and friends and a few new people around. And it was a really beautiful experience, a really beautiful evening. And then everything went chaotic afterwards. Like over the next, that was August of 2019. And over the next few months, my life got really intense. There was a lot of chaos, a lot of recalibration. Several people who I was really close to, am close to, that they were struggling, really clearing some energy and resistance. And it was a very tumultuous time. It took a lot of my focus to stay present and to really walk in my truth and prioritize where I needed to, hold boundaries where I needed to. It felt like everything in my world kind of got shaken up and placed back in new ways that I couldn't quite put my finger on at the time. I mean, for sure, a frequency shift, an energetic portal activated that rippled quite significantly through my life and the lives of many of the people around me. And then we ended 2019, and a few months later, COVID hit. And when that started, I think none of us knew what it would mean or what the right thing was to do, who to believe, what steps or actions to take or not take. It was a really volatile, dynamic time with fear driving much of the conversation. I do believe there were many hidden agendas or focuses for profits that not all of humanity was aware of, but perhaps many leaders that were decision makers were aware of. I think there was quite a shift in consciousness, a frequency shift that happened in 2020, and those who were, I think, prepared, or that's not quite the right word. I don't know. I think if anyone had tried to say in 2019, here's what's going to happen next year, nobody would have believed it. Or even if they might have believed it, they probably wouldn't have changed very much to be prepared for what would happen in 2020. I think it just needed to play out exactly the way it did in order for everyone to have the experience that their soul human needed to experience or was choosing to experience. So I feel that same sense of volatility now in 2024. And I don't know what that means for 2025. I don't even know if it's necessarily like March of 2025 this will happen. It doesn't even feel like that. It feels like when Pluto moves into Aquarius, which would be November of this year, there's something very significant that's going to be shifting everywhere. It feels like ripples of energy that are going to move around this planet in ways that we don't have the understanding of yet or the capacity to comprehend yet. I don't know that we had the capacity to comprehend what would happen when COVID moved around the world. I don't know if anybody did. And I don't know if anybody does right now. And I don't approach this with a sense of fear, like this is going to be a bad thing that's going to happen, or we should do things to be safe or to prepare ourselves or to, keep ourselves safe or healthy. It doesn't feel like it's any of that. I'm not a doomsday prophet or someone who even really tunes into the fear-based mentality very often, or the negative. And that's not how I'm coming into this conversation. I'm coming in very aware. My ears have been ringing for the last hour. The frequency shift as I meditated and all of this started to come into a more clear picture for me. The frequency shift in the space is tangible to me, and it's like a buzz of electricity or energy is moving through the space. My ears are ringing because the frequency has elevated. This is what I talked about. I created a light protocol in 2020. I created a whole cabinet of light medicine, all these different light protocols, meditations where I channeled how energy light can actually heal our bodies or support us in trusting that our bodies are capable of always being healthy and well, that we don't have to be out of alignment. We just bring in light and our entire physical vessel shifts. But one of them was for ringing of the ears. The light protocols were all for ascension symptoms. How do we attune our body when our frequency elevates, when our consciousness expands? How do we hold the health of our body with that elevated consciousness? The light protocol for ringing of the ears describes how it's a higher consciousness that is being activated in our ears, and that's why the ears are like making this noise. And until we trust what we hear, what we receive, until we calibrate ourselves to that higher frequency and express from that frequency, it's going to be an annoying sound. We're going to be resisting and fighting that higher frequency, and so we'll go, my ears hurt, or I don't know, I can't understand what's happening, or I wish it would stop. It's like an invitation to elevate. Perhaps another example that will be helpful. We got back from our family weekend on Sunday, drove through a crazy storm coming home, crazy, like I thought it was a tornado. It was wild storms the whole way home, with some really especially difficult times of driving, my husband and I. And we got home and we were unpacking our car, and I could hear this sound of these birds, but it was a new sound that I didn't know, and it was really insistent. It was like a call and then another call, and the birds were in different areas. And right away I noticed it, and I said to my husband, what is this? Like, have you heard this before? What's happening? It was so loud. And they were like in our trees in our land on our house. I mean, they're their trees, they're not my trees. But they were right in our immediate vicinity. And he said, yeah, I hear it. They're new. I haven't heard them before. And we saw them. We saw these, I believe they're hawks. I'm assuming they're hawks. We saw them sitting on our cedar tree. And so ever since we got home on Sunday, every day this week, today's Thursday night, every day this week, from inside the house and from outside the house, I've heard these two birds calling to each other. I don't know if they're mom and dad and they're calling to their babies to help them learn how to fly, because I've heard that that's a thing, or if these two are mating or connecting and they're calling to each other. But there has been an insistent, high frequency calling all week, every day, in my ears, in my home, that is so present and noticeable. I can't avoid it. I can't not hear it. And so when I made a post about it this morning in my stories on Instagram, and as I'm making this frequency shift podcast episode tonight, I can feel how they've been preparing me. They've been calling me into trusting the messages, trusting the frequency, listening. You know, I looked up what it means when you have hawks around you and when they're calling, and the whole message, the spiritual meaning of it is there's a shift in your path. There's a bigger vision that's coming through. Your purpose is more aligned, like step up. I mean, I'm kind of slow. Some of the receiving and pulling all the pieces together of the messages. Like when I wrote the book and I thought, I don't even know what I'm going to do with it. Like they told me in the book what to do with it. And I've been resisting for quite a while to do some of that because it feels so big. It feels, my throat, it feels a little egoic, you know, like I I know something or have been given something that others haven't, and so what makes me so special, what makes me worthy or in high enough alignment or integrity to fulfill the frequency that came through in that book. There's still a bit of doubt, like, am I actually that soul that knows all this, that writes all this? Like the human me really wonders sometimes, is that even true that I know that? Or I don't know. Those are some of the thoughts that I have. And yet, I sit here receiving the message in my meditation that this is the exact same vibration. That's not quite true. I can feel the similarities in the patterns of what was happening in the energy in this time in August, September of 2019 and what's happening right now. And I can feel that something big is shifting. There's a big frequency shift that we are currently moving through. And I'm not afraid of it. I don't think any of us should be afraid of it. But I feel this call to be present, to be aware of the shift, to walk through this time listening as intently as possible and trusting when all the pieces start to weave together in a pattern, following that thread and sharing where I feel guided to share, and then being internal where I can tell there's more listening to do. There's more certainty and clarification before the next step. And so it's a very conscious, slow, precise walk right now. And I feel like that's probably the most important message for me, for you, for all of us, is to really be steady and clear and listen intently, trust intently, and only move or act when we're clear enough to do that. That doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean we wait until we see the whole picture, because that's not going to work. We're part of co-creating the picture, all of us together. So it won't work you can sit back and just watch, but you'll miss this incredible portal that we're going through. So it feels like we're meant to walk, we're meant to create and to act and to do and to be, and not to just sit back passively and observe. But not all of us are going to move at the exact same moment. Not all of us receive the same messages or activation or ringing of the ears at the same moment. Not all of us see how all of it fits together at the same moment. But when we receive it for ourselves and we're clear and we act on it individually, there's a massive momentum forward for humanity. There's a groundswell of energy as that frequency shift ripples. And it's impossible to ignore. It's very much like with COVID, when certain countries or areas were receiving the wave of energy first, and they would learn something and then share it. Others would sit back and watch and then make decisions. You could track the movement of the current of energy around the world. So I think we have learned a lot from that experience of COVID collectively. I don't feel like we're going to have a flu virus that's going to move around the world again. I'm not in any way predicting a repeat of COVID, not at all. I feel there is going to be it's like a current of energy of consciousness that doesn't necessarily have to be connected to the body. It could be, I don't even want to presume that I know what it is. But it's like I can feel myself trying to be cautious, because I'm not trying to be a psychic that's predicting the future and casting some sort of spell into the future. That's not it at all. I'm naming the energy I feel, the patterns of energy that are showing me they're similar. And I feel like we're in a preparation time right now for a collective frequency shift that's going to be happening very soon. In the next, 4 to 6 months, we will see it and feel it. And just the awareness that we're in that time of preparation can help us be more aware, listen more intently, trust when we receive the messages, share what feels right and true and appropriate, meditate on the pieces that we're not quite clear on yet, and then see where this frequency shift is taking us and be an active participant in it. Trying to think what else feels relevant to even say. It's all about the throat chakra right now. My ears are itchy. I put on earrings, which I don't normally put on, and I can feel how I actually it's not comfortable. I don't know why I did that. I can feel how I just want to mess with my ears, and I think a piece that is really important is, I'll name this because it's so present in my body, is to be okay sitting in the unknown, to be okay sitting in the silence, sometimes for a little bit longer than perhaps is comfortable. That's new for many of us. I think we want to fill the silence, fill the unknown gap with something. And in that, we miss everything that's sitting in that unknown space. Like right now, I can hear outside my window other birds that are chirping. Not the ones that have been calling to each other, but other ones. It's like there's this constant undercurrent of energy that we stay so busy at the surface in the human 3D reality that we often don't feel or pay attention. We do feel. We don't often pay attention to what the undercurrent is trying to show us or tell us or guide us towards, because we're so busy in our heads and our bodies and our running around lives that we don't stop, pause, and listen. And that was the work for today's meditation, tonight's meditation, as Jade comes stalking in the room. It was to be okay sitting as long as it took until I felt clear on what needed to be shared tonight. And it took me quite a while. And so other things may have to wait. Other activities, things that we want to be doing, may have to pause or be put on the back burner, the side burner, put on permanent pause or hold until we trust that it's time for that to shift. because something happens when we slow down and we sit in the gap in the unknown. New information comes through, or the pieces that we haven't quite been able to put our finger on the pulse, it clarifies, and we get the answers that we didn't even know we were looking for. There's probably a lot more I'll be saying about what I feel or sense, for the place we're headed or the way we're headed. I wrote a book. I published it last year in January. It's called An Announcement. And it's kind of like my version of a sci-fi romance novel. It's filled with hope and beauty and possibility, and it talks about how souls reunite here on this planet and why they choose to come here, and what it feels like when we complete our lives and return back to Source. But it also talks a lot about this collective frequency shift that I feel for humanity. And in it I describe how, when frequency, I didn't use these words, but this is part of the message of that book. It's sometimes when there's a frequency shift that is significant in the energy field of Gaia, which is all based on energy, frequency, it's all connected. When there's a frequency shift, not everybody wants to be in the new frequency. Not all soul humans want to play in that new energy. They might feel complete with what they've been learning in their human journey, or they might just say, it's just not a frequency I want to play in. It's just not a match. And in our humanness, we get really caught up in that. We get really tangled in, at least I still do. We want everyone to stay. We don't want humans to end their journey and go back to being souls, because then they won't be here and we'll be here and we'll miss them. And so they should all stay, everyone. This is my way of usually doing it. And so when they choose to leave, because all souls choose when they complete their human journey, when they choose to leave, the ones who get left behind get really upset about it. And it makes the human journey a lot more tangled, a lot more complicated. And I feel like in this frequency shift that we are headed into, there will be people who don't want to participate. They're just complete with it. And it's okay, because it's okay. But it may be hard for those of us who choose to stay. And so when I wrote An Announcement, a lot of what flowed through in that story that I wasn't quite expecting when I started writing the book, because it's a channeled message, a channeled book. I wasn't quite ready for that part of the story that maybe some people don't want to stay, because I think, why doesn't everyone want to stay? It's so cool here on Earth. And so if you have a lot of fear about death, if you are afraid of where you think humanity is headed or what's going to happen on our planet, if you have a lot of doubt in the reason why people are even existing on this planet, then An Announcement might be a really good book for you to read, because it's so coded with energy, love, truth. Jay just turned to look at me. She's like, I know it's coded. It's coded with so much frequency to support us through this time, through this frequency shift. You will cry and laugh and fall in love with the characters, cheer them on, wonder what even is going to happen. Make your way through the book, and maybe even at the end of the book go, I don't even understand. I don't even get it. What happened? What is even going on? And yet your soul will communicate with you through those characters, through the story, and help you prepare for this frequency shift. Help you calibrate with wherever you're headed as we move into this frequency shift. What I believe to be true is that it is going to be extraordinary for those of us who choose to stay and co-create in the energy field of Gaia in this frequency shift that we are moving into. It is going to be absolutely extraordinary, mind-blowing, beautiful, with so much harmony and love we can't even quite comprehend it in this moment. We won't know until we co-create it, but that's what I feel and sense, and it delights me. All right. I didn't know how this was going to flow through. I trust that it lands with you if it's meant to land with you, or it activates something in you that moves you in the direction your soul's choosing for you to move. I welcome your comments, your thoughts, your questions. I have so many community spaces and ways you can connect with me if you want to go deeper into discussing this. But I really encourage you, if you haven't read an announcement, that's probably a really good place to start. You can find it on Amazon under my name. And yeah, see what resonates. Okay, I wish you a really powerful full moon in Capricorn this weekend. If you're on Insight Timer or not on Insight Timer, maybe go there. I have 2 full moon meditations I've created that are both uploaded now. One was from the first full moon in June of this year, a month ago, and the other one is for this weekend, for the end of July, for the full moon in Capricorn. I would encourage you to listen to the first one, see what flows through, what activates in you, and then listen to the second one a few days later, and then see what comes through. It's such an incredible time to be alive on this planet, and it really is my honor to share what I feel and trust it lands how it will. So much love from my heart to yours. Thank you for tuning into this vibration of pure love. Let's take this message of Gaia's love out into all of our relationships and communities today. So much love from my heart to yours.